When I take ownership for it all, even if I didn't actually do it, but if I take responsibility, I feel so much peace. I was so driven to win, and I was the worst loser. I was such a sore loser. I was like mean, I was bad to be around for days until the next game.
So that's the first step of being self-aware, is literally being aware of who you are and how you show up in the world.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men all my life. Like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Lewis Howes, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Showcase instead of show off.
I was broke 8 years ago on my sister's couch. And I remember saying, like, I never want to feel broke again. I never want to feel like in scarcity, like I need other people to depend on. I was living on my sister's couch. She was paying for stuff. I was like, I never want this feeling again. So I put on the material mask and I started fixating on money, millions of dollars that I wanted to make. I started fixating on nice things I wanted to have. I was like, I'm going to fixate on this. I'm going to meet people who are rich. I'm going to learn from them, and I'm going to figure this out. And it worked. I made a lot of money. I was off my sister's couch. I have a nice place. I could afford anything I want, essentially. Got a lot of money in the bank. It worked. But I gained 50, 60 pounds. I had 0 relationships. And it was never enough. We talked about this last night. Like, it was never a moment where I was like, okay, I feel worthy now. Like, no, my worth was dependent on how much money I had in my bank account and talking about it with people. And I think that's when it becomes a slippery slope. Excuse me. I had to kind of like constantly tell people, this is how much I have, this is how much I'm making, and like talk about it to like prove like, oh, you're great. Like, you're a good guy. Like, I want to be around you now. And that was that was a challenge because it worked to wear this mask, but then I was attracting people in my life that weren't there for the right reasons. I wasn't feeling authentic. I wasn't feeling all these things. So I'm all for making the most money in the world you want to make and having nice things. But there's a way to kind of showcase these things that uplifts and inspires people and instead of showing off these things, if you know what I mean. So I think there's some people that show off certain things. Thank you. There's some people that show off their money to make them look good and make them look worthy. And there's other people that showcase their lifestyle, and it just happens to be a part of their life.
Rule number 2, take responsibility.
So many people blame other people, right? They're like, oh, they this, they that.
We are responsible for everything.
100%.
The way that I've learned it.
Yeah.
And when I take full responsibility for everything, my parents, the sexual abuse, the losses, the wins, the breakups, whatever, the good, the bad, when I take ownership for it all, even if I didn't actually do it, but if I take responsibility, I feel so much peace. Because I don't have anyone else to blame. I just accept it. I don't say it's okay that these things happen, but I say, okay, it's happened, and I've accepted it. What can I learn from this? Where's the good in this, and how can I move forward? And that's what brings me a lot of peace.
Rule number 3, self-reflect.
For some zany reason, the hardest thing for me to understand or get is self-awareness. Taking advice from Gary Vaynerchuk and yourself, but can't seem to break through to understand or become self-aware. What is your take on self-awareness and the first step you would take to become better self-aware?
I think being self-aware is realizing who you are, what your strengths are, what your maybe weaknesses are in moments, and just taking a moment to say, how am I showing up in the world? Am I getting certain results that I like in my personal relationships, in my business relationships, in my family relationships? Am I aware of the things that I am speaking into the world? So am I blabbering random things? Am I swearing all the time? Am I speaking negativity into the world? Am I speaking from a place of scarcity, or am I a positive person? Am I thoughtful in what I'm eating? Am I eating junk food all the time? Or am I intentional with what I'm eating? Am I intentional with how I create my surrounding, my environment, my space? Am I intentional with the people I surround myself, the conversations we're having? So I think that's part of being self-aware, is just first off recognizing, how do I show up in the world? What are the actions I take? Who am I? Everything. And first recognize where you're at in that space. So that's the first step of being self-aware, is literally being aware of who you are and how you show up in the world. The second thing, put the AC on. The second thing is then seeing where you want to go. So seeing what your vision is and realizing, am I on track to achieving what I want? Or is my lack of awareness holding me back from achieving this vision? And do I feel the things I want to feel every single day? Or am I constantly in breakdown? Am I constantly suffering? Am I constantly experiencing pain or frustration or anger or resentment? If that's the case, then it's time to be more aware of all the actions you take, of all the thoughts you have, and of your surroundings.
Rule number 4, live in service.
We see this with the athlete mask. We see this with the material mask, that you start to attach your identity to these things.
Yes.
You know, and if you have the money, then you're good. You are who you are. If you're an athlete, you are who you are. For you, you had that happen as well when the athlete mask was stripped off in a way.
My identity was gone.
Exactly.
And then my self-worth was gone, because I didn't have any other worth attached to me.
Yeah.
It was around my accomplishments in sports and my ability to play in front of thousands of people.
Right.
And same thing happens with all these athletes go bankrupt. They lose their sport, and then they lose all their money 2-3 years later. You see them go down a dark hole, like depressed. All their friends, they don't have the entourage anymore because there's no more handouts. You know, the girls that were around them now think he's a bum, whatever it may be. And they're not getting that attention and that acknowledgement that they once got.
Right.
But if those men showed up differently and just lived in service, cared about people, had a big heart, you know, were there for friends in other ways, I bet a lot of those friends would stick around if they came before all that stuff came.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We get to realize that things come and go in our life. You know, my sports career was over. That was the only thing I cared about my whole life. Money is going to come and go. I'm probably going to lose money. I'm going to make money. It's going to come and go. But if I'm always an emotional wreck when my bank account goes down a little bit and living like in fear, like, oh no, people aren't going to love me anymore, that's not a healthy life. Good book by my man, Evan Carmichael, Built to Serve. If you want to learn about your purpose and how to become a better leader in the world, I love this. He says, this is the starting point for everything. If you're confused about what to do next, if you're pressured by others to fit in or live their version of your life, if you feel held back because of people judging you, it's because you don't know who you are and what you stand for. You got to figure out who you are and what you want and how you can serve other people.
Rule number 5, find your why.
This kid who just didn't feel accepted, you wondered why you even were alive, you had no confidence. And then on the other side of us, you turned into this very confident, goal-oriented, I want to go to the Olympics, you know, football player. And it's like, take me back to that. Like, how did that kid who didn't believe in himself and didn't even know why he was alive, how did he become confident?
There were many days where I would get in trouble at school and be in the principal's office, and I would just tell the principal, I wish I were dead, like over and over again. And I think back then they didn't know how to handle someone who said those things. I think there's probably a protocol now when a kid says like, I wish I were dead.
Right to the shrink.
Right, something, right? But there's just like, okay, get back out there type of thing. And
We're still paddling back in those days, probably.
exactly.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. For some reason, when I was sexually abused when I was 5. My brother went to prison for 4 years when I was 8. And my parents were constantly fighting and screaming and passive aggressive. There wasn't a lot of love in the household. My older sisters attempted suicide. So it was just like, it felt like numbing small trauma every day and then like big trauma every like couple of years, right? Like something happened was like,
boom, here's a big trauma. And then just numbing, passive aggressive, not being seen, heard, like cared for. That was the story I would tell myself. Like, numbing little traumas, big trauma. Numbing little trauma, big trauma. And for whatever reason, I kept thinking like, why am I here? There's gotta be a reason. Because otherwise, I might as well just end it. That's what I thought as a child, right?
Jeez.
And I just kept saying to myself, and I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I kept saying to myself, like, I was here to do something. I don't know what it is, but I just need to get through this. I just need to get through this. I need to figure out what it is. There was something inside of me that just kept saying, like, you're here for something greater. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's source of God, like my own craziness.
The veil between intuition and, you know, the intuition in you seems thin compared to some.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to be in that position, yet feel I'm here for something. That veil's thinner.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And it took a long time because I really didn't feel like I had many friends. It wasn't until I found sports. It was just like, I got picked last on a dodgeball team one time in school in 3rd grade, and I was just like, never again am I gonna.
How? You're like 6 foot.
Exactly.
I mean, you were probably 5'10" then.
I was tall. Yeah, I was like 6 foot then, and I was a pretty decent athlete. I was like, I remember this. I don't know if you know this story, but they took us out in recess and had the class do a dodgeball, right? And we're gonna split the class in 2, and the teacher picked like 2 guys to pick the kids, like 2 captains. And they're picking one by one the boys in the class, right? So they picked all the guys first, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna be one of the first people picked in my mind, because I was a pretty good athlete at this time. All the boys get picked, and then they start picking the girls.
Oh my God.
And I'm standing there, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, I'm a good athlete, right? And so they stick all the guys, and then they pick one by one all the girls. Probably like 10, 11.
Okay.
Yeah, 10, 11 maybe.
Oh my gosh.
9, 10, 11, somewhere around there.
Maybe it's because girls mature quicker. I don't know.
I was the tallest kid in class. I was like, I thought I was a good athlete, whatever. Then they pick all the girls one by one, and then there's me, the last one. And they didn't even pick me, I was just by default on that next person's team. And for whatever reason, then something snapped inside of me. I was like, mother effers, like, first off, I just felt like taken advantage of, I felt abused. My whole life was like this feeling of abuse and being taken advantage of because I was sexually abused. That's kind of the pattern that I've found, that I have to really like be mindful of. Like, okay, if I feel like someone's taking advantage of me, it's okay. Like, I don't have to react like they're sexually abusing me or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Same scenario.
It's okay. But that's kind of the story and the pattern that I've been in. And so something snapped, and I was just like, I'm going to destroy everyone in this dodgeball. And I was just like catching everything and throwing it in kids' faces. I was just like, whoa, you know, I was like, I'm going to dominate.
This is an SNL skit.
Exactly.
Right?
And I was just like, never again will anyone choose me last. And kind of like you, where it's like I had this goal in my mind, and I was just like, after class or whatever was done, 3 o'clock every day, I was at the gym till 10 o'clock every night, playing basketball, playing soccer, playing football, working out, whatever I could do, I was playing a sport until I had to go home. Because it was this deep, dark like desire to be something more than picked last. And I was like, I'm gonna prove every kid wrong who's ever made fun of me, who's ever bullied me, picked on me, abused me. I was like, everyone's gonna be wrong. And that was the driving force to me, you know, achieving everything I did in athletics. Until I hit 30, I realized like my whole life I've been doing things to prove everyone wrong. And I think it's the second most powerful fuel in the world. The most powerful is lifting others up and being of service and coming from a place of inspiration rather than needing to look good, be right, be the best.
Rule number 6, be patient.
Be more patient. Patience is something that I have struggled with. I'm the youngest of 4. I'm the baby in the family. I like things my way. I like things yesterday, not in next week. So being patient with anything, whether it be, you know, sitting in this traffic, we've stopped a bunch of times, trying to get anything I want in life, being patient with knowing that things take time sometimes. And you can only control, like Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. said, to the tips of your fingers, right? Tiffany likes that line. You can only control to the tips of my fingers is how much I can control.
Rule number 7, create inspired action.
In sales, how do you walk the line between honesty and doing what you can to make the sale? If I say to someone, it's the last one left, but there's actually one more, is that really bad?
Okay, so Leia's her name?
Yeah.
And I think you never want to lie about how many products you have left or lie about only having a certain amount of spots. You know, with my webinars, when I am selling something, urgency always sells. Having a lack of something, having scarcity, urgency always sells better than just, we have 1,000 of these, buy it whenever you want. So you want to create some type of urgency, and what I like to do is incentivize people who take action within a certain time frame. So if you buy in 24 hours, we're going to give you a specific bonus. If you buy within the first 15 minutes, we'll give you more bonuses. So I create inspired action instead of, hey guys, there's only 100 spots left. When if it's a digital product or a digital course, you know, you can have unlimited. So you're kind of lying about that. It's out of integrity. So make sure you're in integrity with what you're selling and create that inspired action as opposed to false scarcity.
Rule number 8, understand the win-win concept.
This is what I felt growing up. If I lost any game, I felt like a loser. If I felt like a loser, I felt like no one was going to accept me and acknowledge me and appreciate me.
Right.
So I was so driven to win. And I was the worst loser. I was such a sore loser. I was like mean. I was bad to be around for days until the next game. And if I lost 2 in a row, it was like a nightmare to be around me, right? Like I feel bad for my parents to like have to deal with me all those years. And then I took that into the other areas of my life. In a conversation, if I'm not right, then I'm wrong and I lost. And so I'd feel like mad and angry in arguments if I didn't win the argument. Then if I win the argument, I made the other person wrong and they lost. And I never understood this concept until 4 years ago of win-win. I never got that concept. 4 years ago, I got that in the same workshop where I was like, wow, my whole life I had to win, and that meant everyone else had to lose with this athlete mentality. That puts me isolated on an island by myself because no one else can win. So I'm alone by myself and everyone else loses. As opposed to, why don't we all win together? How can we create every experience, every game, even if it's a winner and a loser, how can I still be a good sport about it? And how can I, even if I lost, how can I win by being a good sport and learning something? Yeah. It's finding those other experiences in our life that for so long, it was just like I had to win and it was just constantly killing me inside.
Rule number 9, choose to be happy.
Am I happy or am I content? I would say I choose to be happy. And happiness is a choice a lot of times. Yes, there's other factors. There's our environment. There's results we're creating. There's things we're going through in our lives that are going to be ups and downs. But I think it's a choice for me. I'm happy because I'm grateful. I think it's a lot about perspective. I'm very grateful. You know, I get to travel to third world countries and build schools for kids and be a part of this process with Pencil to Promise. And so I witness a lot of people that have so much less than me. I mean, we're driving around here in Los Angeles right now. You know, I have a car. You know, most people don't have the things that I have, or they don't have the experience that I have. They don't have the relationships that I have. They don't have the education that I have. And for me, I choose to be happy because I'm so blessed and grateful for all that I've created, all that I have, all that's been given to me. I'm grateful to be alive. Like there's so many things that could have happened where I could not be alive today. And I'm just grateful that I get to experience life. So it's a way of thinking and a way of perspective. And for me, there are moments where I'm not happy, where I'm frustrated or I'm angry or resentful or whatever. And then I realize, like, why am I holding on to this? Why am I allowing this to happen? I choose how I want to feel in every moment. I choose, again, like the 4 agreements, to either take things personally or not. And if I take things personally, then I'm going to be unhappy, ungrateful, frustrated, and I choose to let those things go quickly. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I choose to more than not be happy.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is learn to find the joy in anything.
I remember in between college, it took 2 years for me to get, I was doing like NFL Combine and tryouts, didn't make the NFL, so I had to sit out a season. Then I did Arena League the next season. I remember during that time, I was like, I have no money, but I just need to train to get ready for the next season. And I was truck driving for 6 hours a day, and it was miserable.
Oh, yeah.
I was making $250 a week as a truck driver, driving from Columbus, Ohio to Cincinnati and back every single day.
Oh, that's...
Driving Napa Auto Parts. It was a Napa truck. It was the biggest truck before you had to be licensed to like drive on whatever the truck is.
A big rig.
Yeah, and it was like, it only went 55 miles an hour.
Oh my
Pedal
gosh.
to the metal the whole time, literally
So
down,
awful.
seeing cornfields the whole time flat and watching everyone pass me. It was so loud, it was uncomfortable. I was like, this sucks. It's not what I want to be doing. But it was a 6-hour window where I could work out in the morning and then afterwards. It was like the only type of job. It was the only type of job that I could get right now, and then I was a bouncer on the weekends. And just doing odd jobs here and there. And I remember I was like, this is not what I want to do, but I'm doing something else I love and pursuing that. So I'm willing to do this now until I can make enough money doing the other thing. So I think there's a transition phase for a lot of people. It might be 6 months, it might be a couple of years where they got to work on stuff that they don't like. I was like mowing lawns at a golf course in high school. I was like, I hate waking up at 5 a.m. and doing this. But it also taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me how to do something that I hated and find joy in it. And I think when you can find the joy in mopping the floors or cleaning the toilets, mowing, whatever it is, the things you don't want to do, then when you find the thing you want to do, you're going to attract so much more joy, love, and abundance because you learned how to find joy in any activity. I think it's powerful.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the question of the day. I wanna know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you watch something and get motivated and just get inspired, you have a 35% chance of actually following through. But when you get motivated and then you actually create an action plan for what you're gonna do, you increase it from 35% to 91% chance of you actually following through. And when you share your plan publicly, that jumps to 95% chance of following through. So I want that for you. I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Put it down in the comments below so I can celebrate you.
I'm constantly thinking about how do I build what I have currently? How do I maximize what I've created currently, my podcast, my courses, webinars, all these things that I'm doing. But I'm always constantly thinking about, where's the puck going? Where is the puck going to be, right? And where can I predict what's going to generate results in the future? What's going to get the maximum results for my vision of impacting more people? 100 million people I want to impact. So what's going to give me the maximum results? That's going to give me the least resistance, you know, because more and more people are doing podcasts, more and more people are doing webinars, more and more people are trying to do these courses. And a lot of people are saying the market is being saturated now because of this. So how do you stay ahead? How do you be first or the best or the most different in these different industries and things like that? And so I'm constantly thinking about what's going to be big in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and how can I get ahead of 99% of people to get to that place so that I'm first, or I've learned enough in the process to be able to be there. And I'm constantly investing money and time into researching what that's going to be. And that research might be just going to events where smart people are at who are doing different things and asking them the questions. That research and investment might be trying things. You know, I tried to launch a digital magazine because I felt like online publishing magazines was going to be bigger than print magazines. And while print magazines are dying and some people are doing digital magazines well, I spent, you know, $100 grand trying to launch a magazine that I never launched. But for me, it was like, at least I'm testing and I'm trying things and I'm setting myself up to win for the things that are potentially going to be big. But the podcast I launched before people started launching podcasts because I saw this is where it was going. Smartphones were making it easier and easier for people to consume audio, whereas before it was a challenge. And I never listened to podcasts before. But now with the smartphones, everyone has a podcast. And I think there's 500,000 podcasts now. So I am constantly thinking, how can I maximize what we have today for my business, health, everything, but also what is next? Because there's always things that are disrupting industries. Every industry has disruption. You think about Uber. You know, the next generation is not going to be driving cars. They may not even get their driver's license because they don't want to drive. There are different technologies, different apps, different things that are happening in the world right now that is disrupting industries. So what you think is going to be working in the long term may not work. So you've got to constantly be innovating, reinventing, reinvesting in new ideas, new technology, new platforms, new ways of creating an income, and specifically in business. For me, it's what are the things that I'm going to do to continue to attract potential customers, because the only way to build a business is through sales and generating revenue. So what am I going to do to continually connect and add value to an audience, stay relevant, and then offer something that's going to solve a challenge or problem for that audience.
If you want 10 more awesome rules from Lewis Howes, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
If everything is tied around a story of this is bad, this is wrong, I'm in a bad place, I'm messing up, I'm going broke, that energy is going to pull you away from service. Every moment I just say everything that's on my mind.